Hello and welcome to the Wealth Legacy Blueprint podcast with your hosts, Richard and Andrew Hanson. I'm your producer, RJ Malik. Andrew, you've got a show lined up that I'm actually anticipating because I have no idea where this is going. We've been talking with your guest for just a couple minutes, and I don't know where we're going to go. I'm just going to sit back and be entertained. I wish I had a beer and popcorn or a hot dog because I think it's going to be that type of show. But why don't you start and tell us, who your guest is and where you intend to go with this episode?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank Tom for joining us today. When me and Rich got together, we were talking about what kind of podcast we want to do. Tom was the first name on our list. Just somebody, and it really fit like kind of the environment and the vibe that we were going for. It's just we're friends having a conversation. And after the podcast, we're going to learn some things. But throughout, it's not going to feel like a typical podcast. You're going to be involved in this conversation. And Tom's like the epitome of, Rich, I have to get him off the phone for 2 hours because he's spending too much time with one of his many favorite clients. And Tom's one of them. So, Tom, thanks for coming by. I was just thinking, like RJ was saying, we had chit chat before, but I was a former employee of yours. I don't know if you remember, I lasted about 3 days with you. So I still have my Paradise Designs t-shirt. But yeah, this is the kind of relationship we have with Tom. So at first I just want to sort of go, and Rich will attest to it. How did you guys meet and kind of where was that relationship as far as where it is now? How did that grow to where it is?
Well, Rich, you and I can kind of collaborate on this, but I was thinking, where did we meet? Because it's been a long time. And I believe it was something to do with our church, St. Edward's Church, at some fundraiser that it was like a gambling night or something like that. And Rich, being the high roller, was trying to show us all how to lose money. But somehow or another, we became good friends quickly. And 37 years later or whatever it is, as you've mentioned, Rich, we are here. And I got to tell you, the phone calls that we have on a quarterly basis or whatever are enjoyable. I mean, it's not just talking about what we need to talk about, but it's catching up and it's being friends and so thing. So it's been a fun relationship. And I do got to ask you, Andrew, 3 days, was that your choice or my choice?
That was your choice. I cut one sprinkler hose and I get in trouble on my second day.
You weren't putting the regular gas in the diesel truck or anything like that?
Just a minor sprinkler flood, yeah. But nothing too great. That was like the hardest 3 days ever. Like, I remember you gave me one shirt and I would come home and it was soaked. And it's like I immediately had to throw it in the washer and then dry it. And then we moved an entire palm tree, just picked it up and just dropped it in a hole. I mean, and I was young. I could do it then. There's no way in heck I could do it now.
I can't tell you how many friends I've said, send your children to me for the summer, and we'll guarantee that they will go for their education and get white-collar jobs.
And bottom line, that's what happened. I remember talking to you, Tom. Drew was a little disillusioned with school, college, and, thinking about doing this or doing that. And I called you, and I said, put him on the payroll for me, will you? And you did.
Put him on the demo crew.
Yeah, exactly. He goes, oh, I'll cure that in a heartbeat. And it certainly did. He said, I'm not digging.
Nephews, friends, I can't tell you how many we put through there that all finished college.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let me just add something before we start. And kind words, Tom. And I know you and your beautiful wife, Annie, and she has put up with you now. Your anniversary was a couple days ago for 44 years. So congrats. That is as good as it gets, man.
That's been a mountain.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for her. She's already got a plaque in heaven whenever God says you're done taking care of this guy. But I'm blessed and honored not only most importantly to call you friend. But I think we've been a part of your planning from day one. And for that, again, thankful for that. And just blessed that we've been able to shepherd you through that time period.
Well, it's
You're
been
a
a
good
journey.
man, Tom.
It's been very beneficial. I mean, from a lot of the early programs you helped us into for, insurance sake and coverage for the family to, dollar matching that we did with our employees and stuff like that benefited us all. And now here we are. I retired before you.
Well, that's a good kind of segue, because I want to talk about we talked about Paradise Designs, but I kind of want to give you sort of the floor and like how did you come into creating that business, and more importantly, what was the kind of mindset and the future goal for that?
Well, I was in the corporate world. I went through college, like Dad said, and got my degree and started in the corporate world with consumer goods. And for about 10, 12 years, I was gone 80% of the time. I was a regional manager over the Western 12 states. And the next position was a national sales manager, which I knew would just be more time away. And I had 2 kids at the time. So I was doing what my dad said would happen, but I wasn't happy. And I had studied architecture for a couple of years in college, and my brother was working for a nursery landscape company in Newport Beach called Rogers Gardens as their head designer. And so after talking to my wife and saying we have a mortgage and 2 kids and I want to quit my job, she said, let's do it. So I approached my brother with kind of a game plan, and he said, I don't know how to run a company. And I said, well, I think I might have that side down. So we decided to start Paradise Designs. We built out my garage. I have a 3-car garage with a 2-car driveway, so we made an office in there. I went back to school in the evenings and weekends to learn about plants and irrigation, lighting and loads and on and on. And we started it there in the garage. And 32 years later, we had 40 guys and 20 trucks, and it was going great. It just really got to a point of, and really my goal in doing that was, I'm a family guy. I have 3 kids at this point. I have 5 grandkids and another one on the way. And my goal was to be able to go to every football game, every play, every soccer match. I ended up coaching soccer, AYSO, for 12 years. But I wanted to be able to be home every day instead of on the road. And so I always look at, I could have made a lot more money if I stayed in the corporate world, but I would have ended up in the East Coast and divorced. And this way I was home every day, and I consider myself the richest guy in the world. So it was a great run. It really was fun. It got to the point with Paradise that California is not a great place to run a company. We're the bad guy, from workers' comp to, OSHA to agriculture. I mean, I was spending more time trying to be in compliance than doing what I love to do. And got to the point that Rich had said, you're set. You don't have to do this. You can walk away. And we said, well, we got 40 guys that have been family. So we went through the process and actually sold it to 3 employees. So it worked out great.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. And then you kind of talked about coming into business with your brother. And that's another reason why we kind of brought you on, is because you kind of speak to that outside of, what me and Richard do. There's a family dynamic there. I'm curious as to, were there any growing pains with you and Jeff, or, how did that look like on a daily basis? Did you finally find your groove, and how long did it take?
It didn't take too long. I have 2 older brothers. Jeff is one. I have a brother older than him that is more similar to me. Jeff is very quiet. He is a creative guy. And I remember one time we're sitting in the office we had built in my garage, and I'm doing the marketing and I'm doing some drawings and stuff like that. And I'd say jokes. And I finally said, why are you mad at me? And he goes, what? I said, why are you mad at me? He goes, I'm not mad at you. I said, well, you never say anything. He says, I don't talk. And so really in the beginning, the 2 of us would go on appointments with clients, and Jeff just kind of would stand there, and he was very successful. He's very creative, but I would be more the guy to introduce us and talk and fill in. And, Jeff will have, by the time we walk in the front door, known the color and make of the tile on the roof, the architectural style of the exterior of the house. And so he was always trying to create things that would blend and look like it all came together and it wasn't an add-on or whatever. But it worked out well. Essentially, as we grew and evolved, we ended up with 8 designers because we had enough work coming in, and Jeff was one of our designers. We would have meetings. I ran the meeting. We'd have events. I mean, I kind of ran the company, and Jeff ran. He was in charge of the designers, and so he'd give them, insights and help and things like that. But it worked well because it wouldn't have worked as well with my other brother because we're too similar. We would have locked arms a lot. And Jeff said, hey, if you think that's right, let's do it. The one philosophy that we had a little different, and he ended up going with me, is he says you have to make money before you spend it. And I said, no, we got to spend it to make it. We had to get our feet on the ground and people knowing that we're here and elements like that. And it worked. And so he went along with the show. So it worked out well.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. And what I think kind of speaks to your character and kind of how you were as a boss and an owner was you were able to sell back to your 3 employees to where a lot of people kind of just sell to another corporation that gets absolved. And I think, that speaks a lot to your character and sort of the relationship and dynamic you had with your employees. And do you kind of keep track with them? Is it just something that, it's just a past chapter, or you're just, here's the baby. I'm so proud of you guys. Take care of it.
Being in this Tri-City area of Dana Point, San Clemente, and San Juan, I see the trucks all the time. It was our baby. We looked at selling the company through a broker, but by the time you pay the brokerage fees and then you pay capital gains, the whole thing, you're really taking a huge chunk out of what you worked so hard for. And so our program with our employees, we were essentially the bank. We had enough belief in them and the strength of our company saying, we're going to be your bank. You can pay us over a number of years. And so we were essentially on the board of directors. We met every quarter. I was holding hands, and again, these employees have been with me. I mean, one of the guys had probably been with me 25 years, and we sold to 3 different functions of the company. One was over the maintenance division, one was over the design and construction division, and one was over the internal financial and operations division. And so they all brought something to the table that I had been working with them closely for years and years. And so the transition worked well. And so by doing it to the employees, they got something that now they have some value. We kind of guaranteed that we got our dollar out of it. And I'm always wanting to throw in a point or two. It's not always received. It's like new blood is great, different approaches, how to do it. So everybody does it different. I had a ball. It's sometimes I think that I get out too early because I feel relatively young compared to others. But I also have, friends and some family that are struggling with life, and I'm glad I'm where I'm at.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt it real quick since he threw me under the bus with my age because I'm the senior member of this group. One of the greatest things that Tom did, and I'm not sure how often it was, Tom, because I think I went to 1 or 2 of them where there were a tequila day of something, or was it Cinco de Mayo? What did we do? We did something sort of, without getting too graphic, but I remember I woke up in the back of a pickup truck of some sort. I don't recall, but Tom treated his employees, both Tom and Jeff, his brother, and Jeff is also a client friend. And they are 2 different birds. completely different birds. Tom is the expressive. He's the person that's the mover and shaker, and Jeff, as he indicated, is quiet and subdued. And to see how they work together was astounding to build the business. And I do remember the first time I went to meet them, I was going to Paradise Designs, and I was in San Clemente at the time. And, I get out at that time, we didn't have Google Maps, so we had the Thomas Guide. Okay. And so I'm going to the Thomas Guide, and I keep looking, and I'm going into a residential area. I'm like, where the heck am I going? And I go in, and yes, they built out that garage, and it was a awesome office. To see where they went from there, it's just a lot of hard work, a lot of great relationships. And like I said earlier, I'm just proud to know you, man. I am really very blessed.
It's really been a fun run. I think the thing that you were referencing kind of goes back to talking to my dad one time. He says, you pay your guys too much. And I said, we wouldn't be where we are without my guys. And we had a consultant come in one time and say, you really got to get to know all your guys' names. I said, I know their names. I know their wife's names. I know their kids' names, because we would take care of them. We would usually do a Tequila Wednesday, and management, which would be like Jeff Leonard or some people, would stay after, and we would talk about work after hours, and we would have a beer or a shot or something. But we, on a regular basis, would take the whole cruise on a half-day fishing boat. We would have, thank you barbecues in the back. Christmas parties are a big deal. We took them bowling once. Oh, was that fun? Some of these guys are holding the bowling ball over their head. How do I throw this? I said, not like that. But we really took care of the guys, and I made a point of going on jobs and bringing lunch, bringing waters, just things to say, hey, I realize what you're doing and appreciate the hard work. And it was a team. And so I think not only did I get a lot of respect out of it, but I got a lot of honesty. And I think that's the biggest thing with running a company is give me an honest day's work. I'll pay you good, but give me the same back. And it's worked out good.
Yeah, Rich, if you kind of want to, I want to ask you how, because when I first start, so I'm starting off and we're working with new clients that are, just kind of where you were, Tom, like 30 years ago. They're interested in starting their own business. Their family's relatively young. They want to have a concrete future. Rich, what was that kind of investment strategy or sort of financial strategies that we started with Tom, and then now, what do they look like now, or what did they look like towards the end? Was there any evolving, any major sort of adjustments as you go throughout your life?
Well, when we first met, we were, 37, call it 40 years ago. So, I'm at that time, I'm 28, 29, 30 years old, with two kids. Tom had 2 or 3 at the time, right, Tom?
2 when we started.
Yep. And so the first thing, and plus you start a new business, you've got expenses. So the first thing that we'll do, or that we did, was let's secure your legacy. We need, if something happens to you or to Jeff, who takes care of the children? Who takes care of the outstanding bills? Who puts those kids through college? And so it was a lifestyle adaptation, meaning we purchased life insurance. That was the first thing. And we purchased term insurance because that's what we could afford. We did a buy-sell agreement that said if Jeff passed away, the value of the business went to Tom. He would take those assets and pay off Jeff's wife and vice versa. And as we got through the years and they grew and got bigger, then it was the 401ks. It was the cash value index life insurance products. It was investing in different areas that we now had more capital, and the bills were lower, and the degree of protecting your infant children, now they're in their 25s or 30s, was not there. So primarily when we work with younger folks, like we did with Tom at the time, it's protection. And then we just morphed into the other things. And one of the great things about Tom and Annie and Jeff is whenever I did make a recommendation, for whatever reason, they thought I knew what I was talking about. And we were successful in most of those endeavors. So, yeah. So that's how we started.
I mean, I think the thing that I really respect and thank you, Rich, for was realizing that. In the beginning, you don't have two nickels to rub together, and you're putting every dime and spare time you have into starting something of your dreams and stuff like that. But you do have to, I mean, I left a job that had all sorts of perks and benefits and backups to do this. And I love my wife for saying, hey, let's do this. But it was gaining the life insurance protection that would help cover, and then as quickly as we could, evolving it to a point that now you're saving and getting protection. And I think all along you've just evolved us to say, okay, now we can do more savings. You don't need as much protection, and that's put into vehicles that help move you where you need to go and still keep it safe. I think that's the best thing about these days.
Well, Tom, I got to ask you, because Rich, I'm sure, has many stories like this. So I'll give you an example of Rich. He has what he calls these bad grandpa moments. So he'll either, I'll give you a more PC version of some of the many antics he does. He'll, load up my son with ice cream and sugar and then just send him home. And I have a relationship with Nick, and we talk throughout, and I've heard snippets of your behavior as the fun-loving grandpa. What are some of the main stories or something that you take away that you're just, how do I get away with this?
Well, we're grandpas. We have a card that says we can do this, number one. I think the one thing that I have, I've mentioned to many, I'm enjoying being a grandpa probably more than a dad. Now, I love my kids, and I love my kids, but you're just hustling your butt off. And again, I mean, there's a story with my son who was a big athlete that picking him up or spending a soccer practice on the way home. We go, are you hungry? And he goes, yeah, double bacon cheeseburger would be great. So we pull into some place, and I go in and I get him 2 hamburgers. He says, what's with this? And I said, a double bacon cheeseburger was like $9. 2 hamburgers are $2. You're hungry. We've taken care of that. He now realizes, being a dad, you don't have all the money you want. So being a grandpa, it's great because I have the time, I have more money, and I can play with my kids. I have the time to go to the beach with them, to go on bike rides, to load them up with sugar. And I do respect the desire of the kids, my kids, in that, let's keep it somewhat good. I cook a lot of things, so I'm now making our own fruit leathers. I do different things that it's a little bit more in line to keep my kids happy, but keep my grandkids wanting to come back. So it's a lot of fun. But bottom line, it's our prerogative. We can do it.
Yeah.
We got that card, and if we don't get that card, I'm making one.
Yeah,
that's absolutely. There are things that I do. Drew's wife, Summer, you can see the antics, and I can look. And you should just eyes are rolling, or just like, who's this guy? But again, I'm getting that card to say I've got permission to do all
and the thing you got to keep in mind, it's a period of time. It's a window. These kids are only going to be this age for a certain amount of time, and then they're going to be busy enough with their life that we're not going to be as much of a factor. So I have a thing. I pick up my grandkids periodically from school at 2:00 because the younger ones are napping. And my deal is, you talk to me, you tell me what went on at school, and I have something for you. So we got there, and my Spanish word for the day is this, and we did that, and I'll give them a Necco, or I'll give them a gummy bear or something. And so it's funny because my wife will come along occasionally, and she'll try talking to the kids, and they're just kind of quiet or looking out the window. And I said, so what happened today? And I start drilling it when they start answering. And so we have a relationship, which is fun, but it's a window. there's only going to be a short period of time before they're up and out, and we're with the walkers.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully than others.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, no, I Rich does a couple other things, and I just kind of, he's earned that. So I think Nick will agree with me that the life that you guys provided for us allows you to be mischief's little grandpas running around. So,
we are the fun guys. You've heard of the fun.
Exactly.
The fun grandpa. If I don't have a water balloon or a Nerf gun or something going after these kids, and giggles and laughter, it's just like, okay, what's wrong with grandpa?
Yep.
Yep. That's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're going to wrap this up in a little bit. This is sort of, Tom, you're kind of our guinea pig for this. So you're one of our top 5 sort of clients that we want to run this through. And I say that in the most respectful term ever, but you encompass kind of the client that we like to work with when it comes to generations. We have a great relationship with your son, your brother, your wife, your sister-in-law. We have a great family dynamic there, and really what our program and what we're kind of rolling out to our clients is what we call the Legacy Outreach Program. And I know you, Rich, kind of had a little bit of time to go over it, but basically we want to bring in the kids and the beneficiaries and explain to them, hey, this is, with your permission, of course, Tom, this is how your parents' stuff is lined up. Should they need long-term care? Here's how it works. Should they pass away? Here's how the process works. Here are the numbers. So basically, our goal is to establish contact and provide them with the knowledge. Should anything happen, they kind of have that peace of mind that, hey, mom and dad are taken care of. They got what they need, and if something does happen, I know what to do. And if I need help, I'll reach out to Andrew. But have you had that conversation with your kids, or was this something that you feel is integral?
I think what you're doing and your intentions are great. I think it's a little different with us in that all my kids know of Rich and Beverly. I have recommended all my kids to reach out to both of you. I know Nick is in the starting phases, and in the beginning, you're working as hard as you can. And kids are expensive. You know that.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And so you don't always have a whole lot to start investing, but I've always said $100 a month. Do anything you can to start putting it away, and trying to get not only Nick, but Emma and Hope. I know that Richard knows Hope a little better than Emma. And actually, Emma and her wife are the ones you should talk to. They're probably making more money than most of us, but they're spending. But I think the intentions are, if something happens to mom and dad, where do we go? My kids know that, number one, through the relationship we have with both of you, but also we have a living trust, and we're close to our kids. So I show them this is the important pile, if anything should happen. But I think a lot of it is with this generational concept is, let's not only make sure they know where to go when mom and dad die, let's have them reach out to us to help build their future. And that, to me, it's worked very well with us. And so I would want my kids to be taken care of the same way.
Well, perfect. And I think that's, kind of a good segue into part 2. We're going to have Nick on with us, and we're also going to bring Tom in as well. So it's going to be a Garton Hanson clan fun little podcast, and we're going to go over kind of, you're talking about two spectrums or two sides of the coin here. So you got the I'm not going to say older,
be careful,
the wiser Hansons and Gartons, and the sort of a look back into the past Hansons and Gartons, and we're going to go over kind of the dynamics and how we do kind of our generational planning together. So, without further ado, I'm going to let Rich kind of cap off. But Tom, just first and foremost, always thank you for coming in. I know that whenever Rich asks something of you, you're always without a doubt, ready to lend a hand. So I just want to thank you for always being that guy. And thank you for the 3 days of hell. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for helping me with the technical side of getting onto things. My kids weren't around.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the technical issues later, but I think both you and I, if you rated it between 1 and 10, 1 being very not good and 10 being real good, I might be below 1. And I'm thinking you're probably close, right?
Yes.
So, I think we're good with it. Just in closing, we all travel a different road. And I always believe you meet people for a reason. And when I met Tom and Annie, it was for a reason. Do I know what that reason is? No. But I know that I have the privilege of that relationship, and I've learned so many great things from both of them. And like I've said numerous times, I'm blessed to call you friend, and I'm also happy we were able to shepherd you through, the starting point to where you're at today. And we're going to be around for a long, 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 long time. And I will continue to nourish. Okay,
that's the plan.
I'm going one more on him now on this one. We could go for hours.
Not only do I enjoy you as a friend, you've helped us immensely, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Tom. And we love you guys, and I'll save a few stories for when I have Nick and you on.
Yeah, that's good. Perfect. Well, that does it for today. Stay tuned for part 2. We're going to bring Nick in, talk a little bit about sort of where he came from and his story, where he's now chief of the fire department. Is that correct, Tom?
Yes, he's now a captain.
Okay, so we're going to learn more about that, kind of his story, and really the generational planning that we do. So stay tuned for that part 2. You can follow us or join us or on our YouTube channel. You can also visit us on www.generationswealthmgt.com. Stay tuned throughout. We're going to be doing these on a more consistent basis and really focus on current topics. So thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, Andrew, Richard, Tom, thank you. And looking forward to your next podcast. And thank you for listening to today's Wealth Legacy Blueprint podcast. Please like, follow, and share this podcast with friends and family. Until next time, for Andrew and Richard, I'm RJ Malik.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Wealth Legacy Blueprint. Don't be a stranger. Hit that follow button to stay connected. Got questions? Need some personal finance tips? We're just a click away at www.generationswealthmgt.com or give us a ring at 1-833-948-2466. Remember, it's about more than money. It's about your journey to financial freedom. Stick with us for more real talk and real strategies to make your financial dreams come true. Opinions expressed here are our own and our guests, not necessarily those of Generations Wealth Management Group. This podcast is all about education and not direct financial advice. For the nitty-gritty on your own financial situation, always chat with a professional.